This is Edge of the Box, a podcast brought to you by WhoScored.com.
Hello, welcome to the Edge of the Box podcast, a podcast by WhoScored.com in association with Bet Victor. I'm your host, Dan Bardell. It's Thursday, my favourite day of the week, joined by Jonathan Wilson and some guy from WhoScored, Martin Laurence, this week. Martin, I'll come to you first and be polite. How are you?
There. Hi. Well, you'll come to me first with what?
How are you, I said?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
Yeah, a more uncomfortable start to the podcast there. Jonathan, you okay?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for asking. We're going to start then with a look back at the Champions League. Always love it when the Champions Leagues come back. I do. It's my favourite football to watch, bar none. We've got top 10 players, Martin, based on WhoScored ratings for the first match week, I presume, or the first round of fixtures.
Yeah. So from the midweek games, yeah, probably not who you'd expect at the top. I imagine most people would expect maybe Kylian Mbappe at the top, or maybe Bernardo Silva. It's neither of them. So I'll start with at 10, which is Mohamed Kamara, who got the Champions League Man of the Match award in the game against Bayern. He was outstanding. I sort of flitted between those two games last night, and he looked really good. He'll be another one that's on the move very shortly, I think, probably in the summer from Salzburg. Number 9, Phil Foden, obviously scored, and is continuing to play very well in that sort of leading the line, so to speak, for City. Andrew Robertson is at 8. He was our man of the match against Inter. Thibaut Courtois at 7, obviously beaten at the end by Mbappe, but he made 8 saves, including that penalty save from Messi. Messi still hasn't scored against Courtois, so pretty good record for a goalkeeper to have. But he's not the best rated goalkeeper. That's actually Philipp Kern of Salzburg, who also made 8 saves. Looked like he was going to keep a clean sheet against Bayern, which would have been some turn up, but yeah, he was outstanding regardless. Mbappe is actually 5th, down in 5th. He was obviously excellent. His rating 8.94 is still an excellent rating, but down in 5th. And then it's a Man City trio of Riyad Mahrez in 4th. Bernardo Silva obviously got the brace. First goal was stunning. And Sterling has actually pipped him into 2nd. And then 1st is actually Kingsley Coman, who scored that equaliser for Bayern. Crucial goal in that game. I think he completed 6 dribbles, had a hatful of shots and nearly scored a few more. And he also won more aerial duels in that game than he'd won across all of his appearances in the league and Champions League combined, I believe, prior to that. So a busy game for him, and he's our Champions League player of the week.
You glad the Champions League's back, Jonathan?
Yeah, I am. Disappointed by some comments by certain people about the away goals rule, but never mind.
Well, yeah, do you think that was a good? Do you think that's a good thing then?
Of course it is.
Why?
Because the away goals rule did the exact opposite to what people think it did. If you look at the stats, you had 12 years of European Cup before the away goals rule came in. In those 12 years, the away team failed to score in 32% of the games. In the 12 years after it was introduced, the away team failed to score in 45% of the games. The number of goals per game fell from 3.24 to 2.3 something. In the first 20 years after the away goals were introduced. It did not work. It made football bad. What it did was give people the cheap thrill that you could go from losing to winning in one goal. But if you need that, you don't really like football. You just like drama. So, the idea that Real Madrid playing defensively in one game means that it was a disaster to get rid of it is nonsense. 80% of the goals scored this week was scored by the away team. That doesn't suggest the away team's been defensive to me. So I was just disappointed in humanity again.
It's good to know you read my tweets, though, Jonathan. Match me feel nice and warm inside.
You weren't the only one.
Okay. I thought it was a veiled dig at myself because I do remember doing it.
No, it wasn't veiled. It was an open dig.
It was slightly tongue in cheek. My tweet. I just wanted to use that phrase about being fun at parties, so I did. But yeah, I've obviously got a lot to learn.
I'm not fun at parties.
So I bet you are.
Let's not confuse these two things. I don't ruin that goals, Phil. I'm not fun at parties.
Well, maybe one day I'll find out. Maybe one day I'll actually get to meet you in person and find out if you are fun at parties. Let's look at Leeds v Manchester United then. Raphinha, Martin. He was poor at Villa Park, actually, when I watched him. I was really looking forward to watching him. He just wasn't really involved in the game at all. He's looking a bit aggravated. Probably his time at Leeds might be coming to an end.
Yeah, he looks a bit sort of disillusioned, doesn't he? I think maybe there's a slight fitness issue as well. He's had a couple of niggling injuries, and I think he's probably played through them a few times just because Leeds have been so reliant on him up to this point. But yeah, of Raphinha's 6 worst rated performances from us this season, 5 of them have come in his last 7 matches. So yeah, he's gone off the boil a lot, and it's ironic almost that Leeds have actually started almost scoring more goals now Raphinha's stopped scoring. So they've scored 3 in 3 of the last 5, I think. So they've sort of started to click a little bit while Raphinha's gone off the boil. So maybe Bielsa is trying to sort of get the best out of the rest of the team and make sure that Leeds are ready for when he does inevitably depart. And obviously he was hooked at half-time against Everton. And like you say, he was poor against Villa. I wasn't looking forward to watching him for what it's worth, but yeah, he was poor in that game. So yeah, he's gone off the ball completely. And his other worst rated performance of the worst 6 was in the reverse fixture against Manchester United. So it doesn't bode that well. It'll be interesting to see. I imagine he will start, but it'll be interesting to see if Bielsa has the sort of the stones to drop him. I doubt he'll need to.
There's the for what it's worth fans.
I did acknowledge it as I said it, and then I was like, I'm not going to, because last week I literally went foot and then tried to stop myself a couple of times. I was just like, I just sound like an idiot now, so I'm just going to keep saying it.
It's your thing. It's your thing. It is your catchphrase. If Raphinha was to go, Jonathan, would Manchester United be one of the teams that should be looking at him? Where would you see him going? What's his level?
In terms of level, there's no reason why he wouldn't go to Manchester United. I just think of everything that's wrong with United, wide forwards are sort of the least of the issues. I mean, what would he cost? 50, 60 million quid? They spent 70 odd million on Jadon Sancho last summer. They need to bolster in the middle of midfield. They need a proper centre forward who's not 342 years old and stopped running. And well, not they ever really ran. They need new centre backs. They need new fullbacks. I think it would be the most indulgent of signings for United to sign him. But that's not to say he's not their level. It's just they don't need him.
Newcastle, if they stay, Martin. I can see him ending up there for huge money. Yeah,
they'll be interested, I imagine. Whether you can, as much as they want to be attacking the league next season, should they stay up, which it looks like they probably will now, whether you can accommodate him and St. Maximin in the same team straight off the bat when they're still going to be building a team around them is another matter, I guess. But yeah, I imagine they'll be interested for sure.
Should say I forgot to talk about this being the derby game. Is Leeds Manchester United derby would be my first question, but it is, of course, for the WhoScored purposes, it is the Rio Ferdinand derby. Mm-hmm. Jadon Sancho come back to a little bit of form, Martin. Manchester United have picked up slightly, and Jadon Sancho has played a part in that. We've got his top 10 United performances here, haven't we?
So three of his top 5 United performances actually have come in February. So he is. It's worth saying that those aren't amazing ratings in general, and he hasn't been amazing of late, but he is improving. You can see that in general play, his work rate's up. I think he's looking a lot more confident. There's just that final end product that's maybe not quite there, although he is adding it now. So yeah, I think he's coming to life a bit. Obviously, he's playing on the left. I think it's kind of ironic that Manchester United have needed a right winger for so long. They sign one and then they play him on the left. I do think it is a bit odd. I think there's a lot of people are saying he is looking more comfortable coming in off that flank, but I do think it is a bit odd that he was nominally a right winger in Germany. He did play on the left at times, but he's made 18 starts in all competitions for Manchester United and only 3 on the right. It's not really enough time to prove yourself on that side.
No.
And I think in general, a lot of people say that United's problem is they're top heavy. I think as much as anything, they're lopsided. They're too reliant on their left flank, and some teams do attack predominantly down one wing. But if you look at the elite teams, that's rarely the case. There's rarely a bit more. There's usually a bit more balance. And obviously, if you look at the United players that progress the ball the best, you'd even look at Maguire at that from the back. He's far better at that than Lindelof is on the other side, or possibly even Varane. And Luke Shaw was obviously a main outlet for them last season. Paul Pogba plays on the left side. Even Fred is better than McTominay at progressing the ball. He plays on the left. All that means that Bruno Fernandes tends to gravitate that way, to be around those sort of players and link up. So their right side is almost just nullified. So I think that was a problem for Sancho in terms of they just don't really know how to function down that side. And obviously a lot of the flack's fallen on Wan-Bissaka for that. But I think even that's a little bit harsh. It's not really his game. I think that's why Dallow's been brought in. I think Rangnick is trying to address that sort of imbalance in terms of attack sides. They do attack down the left more than any other team in the Premier League. So yeah, fixing that's why Sancho's getting a bit more joy. But I do think in general, trying him on the right with Dalot, which is something that he hasn't done. Rangnick, for what it's worth, Rangnick has never started Jadon Sancho on the right. He only ever did it. He only ever played there under Solskjaer and one game under Carrick. So it'll be interesting to see if that does actually happen eventually. Those two players are actually top for progressive passes and progressive carries for Man United under Rangnick. That's Dalot and Sancho. So it'll be interesting to see if they could link up. But yeah, he is starting to play better off the left, so maybe he'll stay there for the time being. But
then if he's playing left, Jonathan, who's Manchester United's best option on the right? Because I've never really fancied Rashford on the right-hand side. I don't think that suits him at all. Is Lingard suddenly then the best option on the right?
I guess of the players available at the minute, yeah, it probably is true. Which, yeah, clearly is not ideal. I mean, I agree entirely that Rashford's better on the left. His great asset, I think, is coming in onto his right foot. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all that Sancho looks better under a more structured coach. Now, obviously, Rangnick hasn't been able to impose his philosophy quite in the way he'd like, and there's clearly resistance there. But it's still, there is a greater structure than Solskjaer gave him. But it is odd that he's not being used in the role he was assigned to play, the role that he performed so well at Dortmund. Now, that suggests that he is link-ups to other players. So, I guess you almost get in this sort of chicken and egg situation that you end up sticking all your creative players on the left because that's where the creativity is, and then you never actually solve the problem on the right.
Be interesting to see what he does at the weekend against Leeds. I mean, another problem they've got, Martin, Manchester United is, I mean, they've got quite a few problems, let's be honest. They can't get two decent halves going.
Obviously, the Brighton game in midweek, Brighton had the man sent off, which changed the game completely. There's no denying that. But United had scored before then, so you never know how that game would have panned out 11v11 regardless. But yeah, they do genuinely look like a top four team comfortably in one half of a game. But it's not really a stretch to say that in the other half of the game, they look like a relegation threatened team. It's just such a big disparity between two halves. And it is difficult to string 90 minutes together of control of elite level football. It's very, very hard to do that. But it does seem quite strange that it is split straight down the middle with United. They play well, and it's not really consistent what half it is. They were good in the first half against Burnley and Borough, and then awful in the second half of those games. Good in the second half against the likes of Brentford and Brighton, obviously, with the caveat that Brighton had 10 men, but awful in the first half of those games. So, yeah, they just can't get that level of control. When we looked into their sort of team ratings in one half to the other, and the smallest disparity in ratings between the halves was 0.26. So for comparison, Liverpool's average is 0.22, and that's their average. So United's is wildly different. It's actually double over the last 10 games. And they've just lost that control. And it's telling that Rangnick's first game was a game against Palace, and their rating in the two halves was exactly the same. And that's probably the most control that they've had in any game was Ralf Rangnick's first game in charge. And if anything, they're just regressing since in terms of controlling an entire match.
Yeah, it's obviously true that if the spine is functioning, you can get away with a fullback or winger not quite being on it. But there's just problems everywhere. I mean, all the rumours you hear, all the whispers coming out of the squad are that players aren't happy with the coaches, they're not convinced by Rangnick, they think he talks too much, they think he doesn't impose himself enough. Yeah, there's just discontent everywhere, and so ill discipline everywhere, which just spiraled into non-footballing things now as well. So I just think it's a club that's in a real mess. It needs a real clear out. It needs a complete change of culture.
Yeah, I think that's definitely coming this summer. It's absolutely got to. There's my word that I always say, by the way, Martin. Absolutely, that's my for what it's worth. Always saying it does my head in. I do it all the time. Right, Martin, bookings bingo. People are going to be like, what's that? But then what? Jonathan's definitely said that.
Well,
but
keep up, guys.
It was successful, wasn't it?
It's a very successful campaign of one match. We started this 100% record as well. I don't know why we're attempting to ruin it. We're obviously not. Hopefully we get 2 out of 2, but we will see. Basically, we're tipping 3 players to be carded in a game. And we're pricing that up as a single, so they're most likely to be carded, a double, adding a third, and then we're getting the treble boosted. So in midweek we went for PSG Real Madrid because that had cards written all over it with the players on display. So we had Verratti, Casemiro, and Paredes to be carded in that game. Paredes came through in injury time, 14-1, all 3 carded. I had a few quid on it, so I was happy with that. So we're going to try and continue that 100% success rate in another game that should be quite feisty. Obviously, there's a lot of history between the 2 teams, and there's a lot of players that aren't particularly good at tackling in the match as well.
So, Maguire and Fred in there by any chance?
Maguire is in there.
Maguire is a who scored favourite for
Fred
them.
is not
Maguire,
in there just because he's in everything. Yeah. Well, there's a reason for it.
No.
So 7 cards in the league this season for Maguire. He is our top tip to be carded in this game. He was carded in this fixture last season. He's carded everywhere. So 7 cards in the league this season. That's following on from 11 last season. So I think that just shows his problems, really. He's just gone to pot. He's lost his discipline completely over a period of time now. We haven't gone for Fred because I don't think he's a nailed-on starter. He was pretty poor on his return to the side against Brighton, so he might be dropped. So we've avoided that. The second one we've gone for is Rodrigo Moreno, which might seem like a strange one, but he's Leeds' most booked player this season with 6, and that's despite only starting 14 games. So he does get in amongst it. He's tasked with sort of really harrying the sort of defensive midfielders and pushing on to the defenders as well. So he does get stuck in. And then the last one is our man Robin Koch to be carded. He's been booked in 2 of his last 6, and he's made more fouls than tackles this season. And like Moreno, he will be tasked with the sort of the role further back in terms of breaking up play. Probably tasked with man marking Fernandes as well, who likes to go down, not always justified, but yeah. So we've gone for Maguire, Moreno, and Koch to be carded, and that's been boosted from 28-1 all the way up to 40-1 this time. So a big price. So a winner last time. Can we get a massive one this weekend?
It's big. That is big. I'm tempted by that. I'm more than tempted. I'll definitely. I said absolutely. I'll definitely be doing that one. Score predictions then, Jonathan. What have you gone for?
2-1 to Manchester United.
2-2.
I think I went for 2-1 to Manchester United as well. What did I do? I can't even find it. Yep, 2-1 to Manchester United, exactly the same as Jonathan's. It is now time for the Just a Minute section. Jonathan, you're going to go first with Arsenal v Brentford. I've got no derby. Absolutely nobody springing to mind at all. If Brentford are impossible. I mean, players that play for Brentford must never have played for anyone else. There's never anyone to say. Anyone got anything?
Yeah, can't think of anybody.
No, I feel like there is, but it's,
yeah. Arsenal, Brentford. The nobody derby. You go first, then Jonathan. Off you go.
I'm still worried about both these teams. Arsenal have only scored 2 goals this year. They've only won 1 game, which was the 1-0 win away at Wolves when famously they over celebrated. And that's one of those things where I don't really care how much they celebrate. They won the game and they won it with 10 men, so fine, celebrate it. But it does worry me when celebrations are so exuberant that the opposition feel the need to talk about it. And Arsenal are one of those teams you just sort of feel that they do get carried away with 1 result or 2 results and they don't sort of put a run together. And the truth is, they're in a great position to take 4th. They're only 4 points off with 3 games in hand, so they really should be targeting that. They're without Martinelli for this game, suspended. Tommy Asis is out, and I think he's been key for them. Brentford's problem is they can't score goals without Ivan Toney. He's a doubt for this game. They only scored 7 goals in the last 8 games, 4 goals in the last 7 games. 3 of those have come from Toney, so that's a problem for them. So I'm going to go 2-0 for Arsenal.
I'm going to go 1-0 to the Arsenal. Who scored?
2-0.
2-0 to Arsenal. 2-0. Thank you very much. Martin, Villa v Watford for you. Villa's still in my bad books. Going to keep it simple and just, even though he still plays for Villa, the Ashley Young derby. I've got a feeling Tony Daly might play for Watford, but I wasn't 100% sure on that. So I'll play safe with Ashley Young.
Steven Gerrard was obviously extremely disappointed with what he called the worst performance in his time at Villa against Newcastle last time out. He stated post-match that changes would be made. Among those most likely to come into the side are Danny Ings, Leon Bailey and Morgan Sanson, with Ollie Watkins most at risk after a 6th game without a goal. Connecting with the striker, whoever that may be, has been a real problem for Villa all season, with the signing of Ings certainly seeming to have confused matters. Watford have a near fully fit squad to choose from. Ismaila Sarr likely to return to the starting 11 for the first time since November. He gave Matt Targett the runaround in a 3-2 win on the opening day. And Roy Hodgson needs his star man on song if he's to beat the drop, with Watford now without a goal in 4. The visitors on Saturday have scored 13 goals in the last 5 meetings with Villa, most of which tended to be scored by Birmingham fan Troy Deeney, but have lost without scoring in 5 of 11 away games this season. While Villa have been inconsistent at home all season, they have scored in every game at Villa Park and should have enough to bounce back. So we're going 1-0 to Villa.
2-0 to Villa from me. Jonathan?
2-1 to Villa from me.
2-1 to Villa. Yeah, with me and Martin have both called Villa to keep a clean sheet, but they're not doing that very well at all at the moment. Your next game, Jonathan, is Brighton v Burnley. Again, not a jot. Absolutely nothing.
Chris Wood played for Brighton, didn't he?
Yeah.
Ashley Barnes as well. They both did, I think.
Oh, I'll tell you what.
I tell you who else did. Gift and Noel Williams played for both of them.
Gift and Noel Williams. Come on, Jonathan.
Yeah.
You must have looked at that. That's unbelievable knowledge. Well done. I'm letting myself down as usual. Go on then, Jonathan. Brighton v Burnley.
Well, 2 funny teams. I kind of never quite know what to expect, which isn't ideal for this podcast, admittedly. But Brighton and ninth, so this sense they're playing pretty well, and they've only lost 5 times all season, but they've only actually won 1 of the last 6 in all competitions. And I think the sense with them is always they slightly underperform their XG, and obviously they did last season. That was a function of them not taking enough chances. This season, they're only very, very slightly under the XG, whereas Burnley are 4.5 points behind their expected points. They're bottom of the table, but they're only 7 points adrift. They've got 2 games in hand, and if there is that regression to the mean, especially if Weghorst starts scoring the goals they probably should do, then there's no reason why they can't close that, except, of course, at the team they're chasing in fourth bottom is Newcastle, who have a load of new players. Weghorst is a doubt with a groin problem for this, so that's a problem. Vidra's also out. Dunk's suspended. So I think it's going to be pretty tight. I'm going to say 1-1.
I've gone for 1-1 as well. Martin?
Going 1-0 to Brighton.
1-0 to the Brighton. Liverpool v Norwich, and this has just jumped into my mind, and I'm not 100% convinced by it, but I feel like Sergi Canos played for Liverpool and Norwich.
He did.
Wow, Craig Bellamy.
Craig Bellamy. Oh, come on, Daniel. But
tell you who else did.
That was pulled from nowhere.
Jan Molby.
Nice.
Very brief loan spell at Norwich at the end of his career.
All these names leaping out at you now. So Liverpool v Norwich, Martin, off we go.
Yeah, it wasn't a vintage performance in Europe in midweek from Liverpool, but a 2-0 win at Inter was a superb result and allows them to fully concentrate on bridging the gap to City at the top of the table. Following the return of Mo Salah and Sadio Mane and the signing of Luis Diaz, their options in attack are frightening. Though Diogo Jota is a major doubt for this match and is likely to be rested for fancy football fans out there. Norwich are still without Tim Krul in goal, but will hope to have Adam Idar back available, with the youngster offering Timu Pukki some much-needed support of late. Elsewhere, Matthias Norman could return to the starting 11 for the first time in 3 months at the expense of McLean or Lise Malou. The Canaries have more points per game since Dean Smith's appointment than the likes of Palace and Brentford. And following Newcastle's progress, those are 2 of the sides they will be looking to draw back into the relegation battle. That said, having been hit for 4 by City last weekend, a trip to Anfield is far from ideal in what will be the third of 4 meetings between these sides this season. The Reds have scored at least 3 goals in 9 of their last 11 matches against Norwich, and that trend may well continue here. We're going to 4-0 Liverpool.
5-0 to Liverpool for me. Jonathan?
3-0 to Liverpool.
3-0. Good little mix there. Good spread. Palace v Chelsea. Next one for you, Jonathan. The David Hopkin derby. Come on.
Mickey Droy was my legendary 1970s hard man. Yeah, Palace are sliding a bit at the minute. 1 win in the last 8. They have drawn 3 of the last 4. But they are the second worst team in terms of the actual points they've got against expected points. Only Brentford are further off, which suggests that the problems aren't too great. Their issue really is defensive rather than going forward, though, in terms of expected goals. Chelsea had that little wobble in December, January when they drew 3 and lost the game against City. They've won 4 in a row since then. Obviously, 2 of those are Club World Cup, one of them against Plymouth in the FA Cup. So maybe that's not quite as relevant as it could be. They did win 3-0 on the opening day of the season. Chilwell's out, obviously, but also Mount, James and Ruben Loftus-Cheek are doubts for them. Ferguson out for Palace, and Kiate's a doubt. Chelsea, I suppose the problem for them is because they're third and they sort of seem stuck there. They're not going to go high and they're not going to go lower. So there might be a slight issue of motivation there, especially with Champions League coming up, but I still think they'll have too much of Palace. I'm going to say 2-1.
Yep, I've done exactly the same again. 2-1 away win, Chelsea. Martin?
2-0. 2-0 to Chelsea.
2-0 to Chelsea, yes. Got to clarify when you make it.
Sorry.
Martin, you definitely do. Saints v Everton, Southampton v Everton is your last one, Martin. Theo Walcott derby, cheap.
Come on, boring.
He is boring.
Morgan Schneiderlin.
Oh, I like that.
Schneiderlin, lovely work, Jonathan. Absolutely. You're going to take this over. You're better at this than me.
You're awful.
You say I'm awful.
James Beattie.
Oh, James Beattie, come on. I mean, I will say I've got a good one for Wolves Leicester that's popped into my head, but yeah.
Look forward to it.
You'll look forward to that one. Southampton.
Is it Richard Stearman?
No.
Okay.
This is not. You'll like it. Southampton Everton then.
Okay, with 5 points from 3 matches against Man City, Tottenham and Manchester United, Southampton are looking up rather than over their shoulders. They've lost fewer matches this season than the likes of West Ham, Wolves and Spurs, and will view themselves in that bracket of teams having made real strides this season. McCarthy and Leanco are the only confirmed absentees, while Tino Livramento is back available. Hassan Hurtel may name the same side for a third game running, so he may have to make do with a place on the bench. It's been an eventful start to life under Frank Lampard, with defeat to Newcastle sandwiched between 2 impressive wins over Brentford and Leeds for Everton. Donny van der Beek earned his first start for Everton against the latter. He's set to retain his place in a Premier League lineup for only the second time ever, last doing so in December 2010. Dele Alli may have to make do with a place on the bench once again, with Lampard fielding a 4-4-2 against Leeds, starring Anthony Gordon, who started all 3 matches under the new manager. However, there has only been 1 away win in the last 13 meetings between these sides, and Lampard failed to remedy Everton's wretched record on the road against Newcastle, with 2 points from the last 27 available. By contrast, Southampton are unbeaten in 8 at home, which is a longer run than Man City at present. So we're going 2-1 Saints.
2-0 to Southampton from me. Jonathan?
2-1 Southampton.
2-1 to Southampton. Now, drum roll, please, then. Wolves v Leicester. It's the Steve Claridge derby.
Ah, nice.
Played for everyone, Steve Claridge, didn't he? Did he play for Wolves? I'm starting to doubt myself. I think he did. I'm pretty sure he played for Wolves.
Well, I'd have thought you knew 100%, given how much
he did. He did. He did. I'm saying he did.
Why didn't you check that?
Pretty sure he did.
Well, Brendan Rodgers seems to be under pressure, which seems a bit unfair given that he finished 5th in the last 2 seasons and won the FA Cup last year. And even though this feels like it's been a bad season, and despite all the injuries, they are only 11th, and their wage bill is the 9th highest in the Premier League. And if they win the 2 games in hand, they go 9th. So a bad season is par, which seems very harsh on him. Where there has definitely been a problem is they can't defend set pieces. That was an issue last season. They let in 11 goals from corners last season. They've already let in 11 from corners this season. Whether that's relevant against Wolves or not, I'm not sure, because Wolves have only scored once from a corner this season, which is the lowest in the Premier League. The usual raft of injuries for Leicester: no Evans, no Castagna, no Vardy, no somebody else who's, I can't read my writing who that says, but anyway, loads of people. James Justin, that's who it is. Loads of people out. Wolves are 7th, 6 points off 4th, 2 games in hand, so they really should be looking at that. Have been playing well recently, and I think they'll be too good for Leicester here. I'm saying 2-1 to Wolves.
1-1.
1-0. And I've gone for a sneaky Leicester 1-0, which feels like that just shouldn't happen because Leicester can't defend. But these things always change at some point, so I'm going to go for Leicester to win 1-0. Kind of got lost a little bit in the Steve Claridge dark web there. A lot of stuff about Steve Claridge's socks. Started to think that Jack Grealish might not actually be a Villa fan, and he might be a Birmingham.
That's true. Yes,
Steve Claridge's socks are low.
The big difference was he had really skinny legs, so they looked really loose around his ankles compared to Grealish's obviously massive calves.
Trendsetter. No one ever talks about Steve Claridge's socks, do they? Just Jack Grealish's.
No, that's true.
There we go. And he did play for Wolves.
Came from a family of fruit farmers.
Did he?
Lovely stuff.
Did he?
Yeah, for a Football Weekly Live event, because Barney Ronay had interviewed him once and watched him demolish a fruit bowl. I don't mean demolish the bowl. I mean like eat fruit very, very efficiently with a fruit knife, like very professionally. So at half time in a Football Weekly Live, they paid Steve Claridge money to eat fruit. And honestly, it's one of the most mesmerising things I've ever seen.
Oh, is that on video anywhere? I'd like to watch that.
Well, you got to pay for it, sadly. Yeah, it's 15 minutes of Steve Claridge using
worth paying for, though, I'm sure.
It was genuinely, it was sensational.
I mean, some of the stuff we talk about on this podcast, you can see why we get so many viewers, can't you? Because it is unbelievable stuff at times. I think we've got a Saturday treble, haven't we, Martin? I wasn't allowed to pick what I wanted. I had to change mine to fit in with you and Jonathan.
I thought you might bring that up. But yes, we do have a Saturday treble. So you'll see why Dan had to change his shortly. So I'll start with WhoScored's tip, which is Brighton to win 2-0 against Burnley. Burnley have failed to score in 6 of their last 9 games. Brighton are just a better team, in my opinion. Obviously, they played really well in midweek. They've played, like you say, Brighton do play well a lot and don't manage to get the win. But I think this one will be a game where they do manage to get a narrow win. I
went for Arsenal to beat Brentford to 0, mainly because Arsenal don't let many in and Brentford don't score very many. Only 4 goals in the last 7. Ivan Toney's got 3 of those and may not be fit for this one.
Seems sensible. And then I wanted to have Philip Coutinho to score any time for Villa, but then was railroaded into going into Villa to keep a clean sheet and win 2-0. But he does fit in. And to be fair, I did predict Villa to win 2-0 as well in the predictions.
When I suggested it to you, I should say you said it doesn't feel like Aston Villa will keep a clean sheet, and
it doesn't.
You predicted Aston Villa to win 2-0. So,
but that means nothing. It doesn't feel like Leicester would win 1-0 at Wolves, but that's what I predicted. It just sometimes strange things happen, don't they? Also, I will say it was quite a heavy-handed suggestion that I changed. I didn't really feel like I had an option. If I'd have turned around and said no, I want to keep what I've got, you'd have said no.
Probably, yeah.
So there we go.
Part of it was the price on Coutinho to score with BetVictor. We're not bad mouthing BetVictor at all here, but wasn't the best compared to some
awful people. Awful,
shocking odds every time.
By contrast, the lovely people at BetVictor were
great
already,
people, marvelous people.
Yeah, they were already a leading price on that particular treble, which again is Brighton, Arsenal and Aston Villa, all to win 2-0. So without conceding, not 2-0. So all to win 2-0. That was 15-1, which, like I say, that was a leading price. And they've given it a little nudge regardless to 16-1 because they are such lovely, lovely people.
Yeah, and talking of lovely people, we're going to catch up with now. Sam Boswell from BetVictor. What a guy. What a company. Let's talk to Sam. Sam, good to hook up as always. We're here to talk about Manchester City versus Tottenham. What I bet Victor making of that game.
Yeah, hi Dan. Should be interesting, shouldn't it? City, as you'd imagine, are a short price favourite for the game at 1-4, 9-2 the draw. Conte's men 21-2 to come away with a shock result. Been listening to some of the feedback. People very keen on City this week, so we've boosted half-time, full-time Man City to 20 to 23 from 4-5. City to win, both teams to score. If you think Spurs will nick a goal, but City will take the 3 points, that's 21-10. Harry Kane, of course, was a big talking point in the summer where he was going to go, and City were at one point looking like a very likely destination for him. To score a penalty against the team that I think he should have joined is 12-1. That's a boosted price as well. Fascinating to see how Kane plays. Conte this week, I don't think the noises coming out from him were particularly enthusiastic. If you're a Spurs fan, already feels like he's a little bit restless. Loads of bet boosts on the site, including Sterling and Mahrez to score, Romero to be carded. That's 18-1. Everything else you could need on there. Personally, I'm finding it really boring to come away from a Man City win here, Dan. I think they're going to get it sewn up, and the slightly difficult spell for Spurs will continue.
Can't see anything else but a Manchester City victory, I'm afraid. Let's talk about Leeds a little bit. Bit of a punter's nightmare, Leeds, because you never know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah, I really struggled to get them right personally, and I've taken to kind of avoiding them. 29-10 to get the win at home, 27-10 the draw, 5-6 United away at Leeds. I mean, a couple of years ago, it would have been a massive price. Appreciate Leeds not been a Premier League team in the recent years, but United are a big price away from home these days. Bruno Fernandes to score 2 or more. Obviously, did get that very late goal against Brighton. He's 16-1 from 11-1. If you think Marcus Rashford's going to come back to form in this, I suppose it is a derby game as such, isn't it? He's 9-2 boosted first goal scorer. For me, I've got to say, I think I'm quite happy to take a bit of a punt on maybe draw and Leeds here. I just don't think United are convincing enough. You've got games stacking up left, right and centre. Whatever's going on at the club's going on at the club. Doesn't seem like the happiest of camps. And I don't know about you, but having watched that first half against Brighton, they really shouldn't have won that game.
Felt very Brighton to me, although they've had an excellent away record this season. But yeah, Brighton have a lot of the ball, do a lot of nice stuff, but then just not quite ruthless enough sometimes on the big occasion. But yeah, Manchester United in a touch of form now. I presume they're favourites for this game.
Yeah, and I can see why. Listen, Man United, massive club, always going to be a popular bet with people, whoever they're playing. But for my money, Leeds at draw and Leeds is just shy of evens, around 10-11. That'll probably be the play I'll have. I'll take a bit of a punt there. But plenty going on this weekend. Loads of sort of short prices for people to either get stuck into or try and take on. You've got Arsenal at 2-5 to beat Brentford. Chelsea 8-13 to beat Palace. Palace big price at 9-2, I think. And Liverpool a very short 1-12 to get the better of Norwich City. So we're expecting probably Aka carnage should all the short price favs go in. Fingers crossed someone will pull a result out of somewhere for us. I'll back the Eagles at 9-2 to do that for us. Come on, Palace. Enjoy the weekend, guys. And as ever, do gamble responsibly.
Let's look at Manchester City v Tottenham, then probably the most exciting game of the weekend. And Martin, Raheem Sterling's on top form at the moment for City. Where is he in the WhoScored form rankings?
He is second, up to second. Obviously, got that hat-trick against Norwich last time out. I took him
out of my fantasy football team. Can you believe it? Take him out of my fantasy football.
He's got a hat-trick. Believe it. But yeah, that took him to 10 for the season, which has already matched what he managed last season. Obviously, he didn't have a great season last season. Didn't have a great start to this season. But yeah, he's fully back on form. He's scoring goals that we aren't actually that used to seeing Sterling score. So the goals against Norwich and then the one in midweek at Sporting, fantastic goals. So he's clearly full of confidence. He's second. So I'll start at the bottom, which is Joel Matip in 10th. A lot of people were quite surprised to see him, you wouldn't say dropped, I guess rested. Number 9 is Bukayo Saka, which is starting to feel a bit weird just because it feels like Arsenal haven't really played any league games for so long. They haven't played. I think they've only played 3 in 2022, 3 league games, considering we're in the middle of February now. But yeah, he's clinging on. He's 9th. Fabinho in 8th. Liverpool's star striker now. He's up to 8th. Heung-min Son in 7th. James Ward-Prowse down to 6th. Bruno Fernandes up to 5. Alan Saint-Maximin is 4. And a player I mentioned a short while ago, Anthony Gordon, is in 3rd. A player we didn't mention when we had that discussion about how Everton are going to fit Dele Alli and Van der Beek in the side, and we said, we can't fit them with all these players. Didn't even mention Anthony Gordon. He started every game under Lampard, who does have a bit of a reputation, I guess, for favouring young players, and he's certainly done that with Gordon, who's been excellent. He was the man of the match last weekend for them. So Raheem Sterling is 2nd, and probably unsurprisingly, up to 1st for the first time, Jared Bowen, after another goal. So, yeah, he leads the way.
All pretty fair, that, Jonathan. Can't argue with too many of them in there. I question Fernandes a little bit, but that's probably the only one.
I'm not going to question the algorithm.
No.
Thank you. Oh, look at that. For a first.
Things are
sorry, he wasn't listening to any of it.
I'm not going to do it. I didn't say I agreed with it.
That's true, yeah.
Do you agree that Raheem Sterling is on top form at the moment? Is he benefiting from Jack Grealish being out? Because Grealish pretty much seemed like Grealish was playing on the left-hand side every week. Then he moved to the false 9 position. Now he's out completely with his normal shin injury around this time. Sterling benefiting from Grealish not being there?
I mean, it just seems to happen with City that every now and again a player who seems to have drifted out of the picture comes back in and looks sensational. I mean, it happened with Riyad Mahrez, it happened with Bernardo Silva. I think with Sterling, when he's playing badly, or when maybe that's a bit harsh, when he's not quite at top form, sometimes his decision making isn't great. But you saw both in the Champions League and with that hat trick that he's really sharp with that, not just deciding when to shoot, but also deciding when to cut the ball back. Just having the calmness in the box to pick passes. It was the Bernardo Silva, the first goal, wasn't against Sporting, where he did really well just to delay doing anything, waited for the space to open, and knocked it back to him. And that I mean, I guess it's an obvious. It's a confidence thing, but when his confidence is high, he's sensationally good at that. When it dips a bit, that's a bit of his game that you questioned.
Yeah, I've always thought of him as a bit of an instinctive finisher, but you're right. The goals he's been scoring recently, Martin, the ones where he's got time, he's picking things out, and his decision making is good. But I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. Pick up from there. Pick up from anything you like.
You want me to pick up from there?
Yeah,
me to clean up after you.
I'm happy for the mistake to be in there. We all make mistakes. I think it's good. I think it's good for people to say. You know, it's not all seamless.
Usually we're absolutely seamless, aren't we?
Yeah.
Doesn't score many from outside the box, and he's got 2 in his many games. And yeah, I think it's just a confidence thing. Obviously, like Jonathan says, it's enabled him to get into a rhythm. Don't think it's a particularly good look for Jack Grealish that they're scoring hatfuls again without him. A bit of an issue, like you said. Sorry, he's got his usual shin injury with a sort of undetermined return date, which never boded well during his time at Villa. So, some maybe not controversy around that, but it does seem to happen a lot. So when we'll see Grealish back, I'm not sure whether that's down to injury or down to form. He did have that sort of indiscretion. Well, not really an indiscretion. He got pictured again on a night out, didn't he? And I know
he was with some of his teammates, to be fair.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I know Pep said obviously he was just upset that he wasn't invited, but maybe it was a slightly veiled inclusion in the team the following week to say, look, he's not in trouble, and then straight out again after that. Who knows? But yeah, he's having a tough season.
Now, Tottenham, Jonathan. It's all gone a little bit wrong for Tottenham. They play this back three. Conte's fine for his back three. Would a switch to a back four actually help them in some ways or not? Would they still be rubbish?
Well, the switch to back four helped them on Sunday because they changed shape in midfield, and it meant they got Kulusevski stopping Ruben Neves, and he controlled the game completely first half hour, and suddenly he had a challenger. So in that specific circumstance, it helped. I doubt that Conte really wants to change that. I think the big issue is Eric Dyer being out, which is a bizarre thing to say, given his form really over the last couple of years. But when you watch Tottenham with Dyer, it's really obvious that he's the one who organises. He's the one who talks all the time. And when he's not there, they look a little bit lacklustre. I mean, the odd thing about that Wolves game was they were actually okay. And this is something Conte said afterwards, that they actually played pretty well. They just let in 2 really, really, really soft goals. And he made the point that they don't have a killer instinct. If you look at their XG, there's no side worse than Tottenham this season against their expected goals scored. So Kane and Son aren't scoring goals this season. But Conte was talking about the killer instinct at the back. The willingness to kind of, when a ball's bobbing about the box, to actually get in the way, get your foot on it, put your head in where it hurts. And I think that was the thing that cost them against Wolves, was they were just so sort of limp. And obviously they're slightly unlucky, particularly with the second goal that took the deflection onto the post and bounced back again. Hugo Lloris, I think, although he made some really good saves against Wolves, I don't think he covered himself in glory with the first goal. And obviously his pass for the second goal, the pass to Ben Davies, was what put them into trouble. And they've got that problem when teams press them. And I think this has been true since Mr. Dembele left, that they don't have anybody good enough on the ball to break a good press. And every time Wolves press them, they cause problems. So City are clearly going to press them, so they're going to cause them problems. Yeah. And then Conte midweek complaining about the signings. Yeah. I mean, which club did you think he was joining?
That was strange, wasn't it? He said that they lost 4 important players to Tottenham. He clearly didn't rate any of them, but it was just another sort of dig, basically, that they hadn't strengthened. But yeah, it's not good, is it? The noises coming from Conte in particular. The one thing I would say is Dyer has returned to training this week.
He's still a doubt, isn't he? He's
a doubt, but he has a chance of playing. Might be one. Maybe they won't rush him back. So.
Skip, who's probably been their best central midfielder since Conte took over, he's still out, which is...
Without him, they really struggle as well, All right.
Yeah, well, if they start as they did against Wolves, they'll be in serious trouble against Manchester City. The bet builder for this one, Martin, talk us through it.
We're sticking with that man, Raheem Sterling, to score again. Like I said, he's matched his league tally of 10 from last season already. He's now hit double figures in 5 consecutive Premier League seasons, which is pretty impressive. He's also got 8 goals against Tottenham in his career, so he likes playing Spurs. Mahrez to score as well. So obviously we're favouring Man City in this game. So Sterling and Mahrez to score. Mahrez has scored in 8 of his last 9 appearances for Man City. Those two have scored in the same game as well on 5 occasions already this season. And the last leg is Christian Romero to be carded. He's just a very feisty man. Carded in 5 of 8 league starts already. Sent off in the Conference League as well. And got booked a hatful of times for Atalanta in Serie A as well. So he's always good for a booking. So that has been boosted. So that's Sterling to score, Mahrez to score, and Romero to be carded, boosted from 13 to 18 to 1.
Yeah, Mahrez and Sterling seem to be the designated penalty takers at the moment, which should help with that bet potentially. Can I have your predictions, please? We'll start with WhoScored, the WhoScored guys.
The WhoScored guys have gone for 3-1.
3-1 to Manchester City. Jonathan?
2-0 to Manchester City.
2-0 to Manchester City. And I have gone for 3-0 to Manchester City. The final game that we're going to look at today is West Ham United v Newcastle. I mean, it's come a week too late, really, but Kieran Trippier is injured and going to be out for some time, Jonathan. Been huge for them, hasn't he? I mean, just his leadership, I think he galvanises those around him. He gets the defence organised. He's going to be a big miss.
Yeah, and the set plays as well.
Yes.
That led directly to 2 goals already. So, I mean, of the 4 signings they made, he's definitely been the one who's settled the quickest and made the most obvious impact. So, yeah, him being out is clearly a blow for them. Yeah, since they lost to Cambridge, 10 points in 4 games, have looked a totally different team. They look defensively more secure. They look better on the ball. They just look a more confident side. So they just, since that game against Cambridge, just haven't really looked like a relegation team. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be okay now.
Yeah, they're probably going to stay up, aren't they? They look like they've got enough about them now with those new signings in January. And talking of new signings in January, I'd love to know what the WhoScored top 10 is. Top 10 new signings.
So, yeah, this was just around the Trippier discussion, really. So, perhaps unsurprisingly, he's top, not only in the Premier League, but across Europe's top 5 leagues. His rating in 4 games for Newcastle is 7.87, which actually puts him above Mo Salah as the top-rated player in the Premier League this season. Obviously, he wouldn't get that award because he's not got enough games.
I mean, you never know. You never know. But the reward seems to go to all kinds of funny people.
He will be a really big miss. It'll be interesting to see what they do without him, whether they'll go back to a back 3. Because another important thing, and you wouldn't think it previously, but Manquillo also got injured against Villa. So he would usually go over to the right side. They don't actually have another natural right back. They could play Jacob Murphy there, but he'll be a wing back. Fraser could play wing back. Emil Kraft, who is
not the most popular.
not up to much. Trippier is our top-rated January signing across Europe. There's 5 Premier League players in it. Coutinho is 3rd. He's been up and down, I guess. Obviously, had that incredible game or incredible half, I would probably say, against Leeds, where he just looked like vintage Coutinho. Outstanding then. Chris Wood is actually 6th. It's interesting. A lot of people saying he's not settled well, but Eddie Howe, obviously, understandably, has been quick to sort of dispel that and say that his general play has been good and helped the team. It's interesting that Newcastle have actually gone up high to Chris Wood twice as much as Burnley had. So he's winning 5.5 aerial duels per game at Burnley. That's up to 11 at Newcastle, which is vast as he is. He's yet to score, but I guess Newcastle form has improved with him in the side, linking things a little bit better maybe. He's 6th. I think that points to the fact there's not been actually that many great January signings yet. Obviously not had a lot of time. This is, I'm going to say it, for what it's worth, this is a minimum of 3 appearances. The other 2 players from the Premier League in the top 10 are Hassan Kamara, who I think has improved Watford defensively. In particular, he's looked pretty decent at left back, an upgrade on some pretty awful fullbacks at Watford. And Luca Dean is 10th. Again, same with Coutinho. I think he's been up and down for Villa, but maybe down to the fact that some of those players make the list because there's not an awful lot of strong competition right now. Though I should say Newcastle's top 6 rated players in the Premier League, 4 of them are their new signings. Kieran Trippier's top. Matt Targett was very good on his debut. Obviously couldn't play against Villa. Dan Burn was very good on his debut against Villa. And like I said, Wood is in there as well among the top 6. So their new signings have settled really, really quickly. And like you said, they already look like they could stay up. Maybe not comfortably, but with a little room to spare, I think.
Yeah, they're going to be a lot more comfortable than I thought they were going to be at one point. Forgot to do a derby for the last game, the Emmanuel Adebayor derby, of course, Manchester City v Tottenham. West Ham v Newcastle is the Paul Kitson derby. West Ham's form...
There's hundreds, so aren't there? West Ham Newcastle. It seems like most players who played for West Ham played for Newcastle at some point. It's another Craig Bellamy derby.
Yeah.
Shaka Hislop, Stuart Pearce.
Yeah.
Did Paul Kitson play for Newcastle?
He did.
Lee Bowyer, Kieran Dyer, two of them going together nicely.
There is a lot there. You could
Paul Goddard.
Should we do a quick 11? West Ham combined 11, anyone? I think Jonathan's done it there. But we had a keeper, Shaka Hislop.
Andy Carroll, Kevin Nolan.
Yeah, I think you've done it.
Wow.
I think there's an 11 to be had there.
Nobby Solano.
He never stops. I'm trying to think of
what a player. I've
Marlon Harewood played for Bath. Brief spell on loan at Newcastle in the Championship.
Scott Parker.
I'll tell you what, that must be the most players that have played for two teams.
There's a lot played for City and Tottenham, though. I mean, I was thinking Paul Walsh and Paul Stewart.
Not like West Ham v Newcastle.
No.
That was the team you've had. That was literally Newcastle's first 11 at one point. All playing for the same time. Ended up playing for West Ham. Ridiculous. West Ham's form, though, not being a top half team in a long time. Jonathan, if you had to rank favourites for fourth, where would you place West Ham? I can't pick a fourth place. No one wants it.
There's five realistic candidates, right? And I think they fall into three brackets. So Manchester United, I would say, are favourites, partly because they have it already, but also for all their struggles. They're not losing games, and their squad is good. The issue is that they haven't really played a tough game in the league in the last couple of months. So it might be they suddenly start getting hammered every time they play tougher fixtures. I then think Tottenham and Arsenal are the next bracket down, and then Wolves and West Ham bracket below that. West Ham, I think, have not been the same since that Liverpool game when Ogbonna got injured. I think they really miss him. Now they've obviously got the complications with Kurt Zouma. And they feel a bit more inconsistent now, but they had that great start, and it's certainly not impossible they could take it, but I think they are in that of those five, they're joint fourth.
Demba Ba played for West Ham and Newcastle.
Demba Ba,
yeah. There's just so many. Where would you place them, Martin?
I think they'll come above Tottenham, just because I think Tottenham could be an absolute mess between now and the end of the season, I think. But yeah, then they're not playing well, and David Moyes has admitted that. They're not playing particularly well, but they are quite like Man United at the moment. They aren't really losing games. And obviously, they got that late equaliser, which in my mind was ridiculous. Obviously, it's the rule, but can't bundle a goal in with your arm and it not be handball.
I liked Glenn Murray's analogy on Match of the Day too, that the whole ball wasn't across the sleeve. You couldn't give it. I thought it was a really good analogy.
Should we be allowed to bundle balls in with your arm? No.
I mean, he was in my fantasy team and I had a bet on him to score, so I didn't really mind.
Okay, so I imagine he thought it was fine, yeah.
Glenn Roeder.
Manager. This is such a fun game. I've been desperately trying to think of someone else whilst Martin was talking, and I couldn't think of anyone. we must have exhausted all our options at this point. Yeah, I don't think that was handball. Did you think it was handball, Jonathan?
Yeah, of course it was.
Oh, okay. It's handball for 100%.
All day long.
Million percent. Anyone who says it wasn't handball, I was Glenn Murray on Match of the Day too. Do me a favour, Glenn.
Team Genus, yeah.
Yeah, Genus was adamant, wasn't he? He was adamant. Who's going to win this game then? What's the score going to be? Martin, who scored?
Good question.
2-1 Newcastle, I've got.
2-1 to Newcastle. Really?
Yeah.
Away win? Woo.
2-2.
2-2. I still can't find mine. I've gone for 2-1 to West Ham. Great. Everyone different there.
Nice little split.
Augurs well, doesn't it? What doesn't augur well is that I had an appalling week last week, I believe, in the predictions. How's the league table for that shaping up, Martin?
It's very tight now at the top.
Who
scored at the top? Yeah. Who's I should say who scored closing that gap? It's only 4 points now between us. Closing that gap. So because Josh didn't round up last week. Over the midweek game, who scored 13, Jonathan 10, Dan 12. So not much in it over the 2 weeks. You only got 3 though at the weekend. Jonathan got a win at the weekend with 7.
So where's Jonathan? I know he's bottom, but where is he in relation to the two?
So let me just get the points up. Dan 153, who scored 149, Jonathan 138. But it's Dan. It's the correct scores. I say it every time. But Dan still has the fewest general predictions right. 101. Jonathan 102. No, Jonathan. Yeah, 102, and who scored 109. But Dan 26 correct scores. Pretty impressive, to be fair.
What are your 2 correct scores?
20 who scored and 18. I'm sad, aren't I? Keeping a log of this.
Is that a lovely Excel spreadsheet on the go?
You should see my spreadsheets. Yeah,
I would like to see it. I would actually like that to get sent round.
I can forward it. That's not a problem. I can forward it.
Send it along with the script and send me a template of fixtures that you said you were going to send me each week for when I do my predictions.
Oh, that's what it was. I was going to message you. So I can't remember what you asked.
Yeah, always copying and pasting the fixtures of the Premier League website into WhatsApp and having to type it manually input it. It's a nightmare. I can't be doing things like that. You don't make the talent do things like that. If Mark Chapman was presenting this podcast or Max Rushton, they wouldn't have to do that. So I don't want to do it either.
Not having the talent.
That's not very nice at all, Martin. let's end on that sour note then. Yeah, thank you very much for watching the podcast. Thanks to Jonathan for joining us. Martin, not so much. If you're not already subscribed to this podcast with your post notifications on YouTube, and if you do that, you know exactly when the show is coming out, although it does pretty much come out on the same day every week, so it probably won't be that helpful. Enjoy all the football at the weekend, and as ever, stay safe.